Hello, I'm John Ryan.
And I'm JD Orr, and this is the Hungry Hungry Hippos, a USA Handball podcast.
I'm not sure the hippo reference, but
Yeah, I just, the game Hungry Hungry Hippos. That's why everybody joked with me that I
okay,
should have
all
been
right.
should have been asking people where the hippos were. So no, I asked several people, they had no idea what I was talking about. So
Well, when you get older, you start to reference things, and people
yep.
don't even know the
I
reference.
don't
I had to
even know if
just
it's a game over there. So,
well, and I would guess that they probably are a little annoyed about the similarity between Hungary and
Hungry.
Hungary.
Yes.
I
Yes.
would guess that uh, maybe they'll change their name. Like Turkey. I guess being a turkey is only a bad thing in the United States. But
Yeah.
as you can see, I
Oh,
put
you got your
my
scarf
scarf.
up there. Nice.
I looked at buying a jersey, but I was like, on wait a second, there's no names on these
Yeah.
jerseys. So
And they didn't
you know,
have very many. I mean, that was, I
yeah,
think, probably the most shocking thing is that, we went down, I think we went down in the middle of the first game or after the first game, and they were pretty much sold out of almost everything in there besides they had a couple
yeah,
sweatshirts left and they had scarves, obviously.
yeah. I did a quick run through there, and I was like, oh, I don't really like these shirts, but I said I could put them up on my handball wall. So
Yep.
I have to. I never always quite figure out. Sometimes I got a long shot view of all my stuff, and then other times I got like a closer in view. But I guess what we'll do is we'll talk about a few news items, and then we'll talk all about the Ohio State handball venture in Hungary. We got some good stories about there. But
Oh,
first, we will
yes.
talk about that young man who's getting a little bit older. And I guess I'll share the screen here.
Yeah, I haven't had time to read into this one. I saw your post about Patrick. He's what, 27, 28
He's
years old?
28. I guess he's going to turn 29. This article here talks about it a little bit. Oh, do I have the share on or not?
Yep, I can see it. Yep.
Okay. All right. So, yeah. So he, I'm not sure when he got married, and now he's going to be a father soon. But as the article tells, Patrick Hueter, he's a circle runner, older brother of Ian, plays for Dormagen. He's essentially going to kind of the article is not entirely clear. For next season, he's going to be kind of like a reserve player. I get the impression he's probably not going to go on away trips, maybe not even play at all unless uh, all their circle runners get injured or something.
Hmm.
That sometimes happens. Um, but I think he's going to focus on family and job. At least that's the impression that I got. But good news,
Stick
still
with
wants
Team
to keep
USA.
playing for the U.S. Um, so good news. I don't begrudge anyone making what I like to call a life choice.
Yeah.
um, that's as old as handball. I made life choices at one time. Even JD makes
Yep.
life choices. Um, and Patrick's a good circle runner. Certainly fits in well with the Dormagen team and the HBL two.
Hmm.
But I don't think he's I don't think he's getting any worse. I don't think he's getting any better. I think he's kind of plateaued as a circle runner that gets a lot of playing time on the U.S. team. What's your assessment?
No, I think that's pretty fair. I mean, also the fact that pivot is probably our deepest position on the national team. I don't know the depth chart at Dormagen, but obviously the connection between him and Ian is fantastic. Obviously being brothers and from a defensive perspective, just the experience factor is always important. But when we got several guys that are on the younger side, but also we have several guys on the older side, so Patrick's kind of in that middle of where we currently sit with our pivots. So to see him kind of taken a step away from, I wouldn't say step away, but a small step backwards from competitive play. Um, it's a little, I don't want to say concerning because I look at somebody like Domagoj and he's obviously hasn't played competitively with a club in several years, but he still can come out and play with Team USA and be very serviceable. So, I don't have any concern on that front, but I think it's one of those things. To your point, he's kind of reached a nice content spot where he's contributing, but he's not wowing anybody and he's not letting anybody down. So,
Yeah, yeah. And let's be realistic about this too. I would guess that if he did not have American citizenship, he might be announcing his retirement. Um, because the carrot of being an Olympian is still out there, and
right,
it's very clear to me he likes playing for Team USA. And shoot, not that anybody else who's a little bit on the older side hasn't extended their career a little bit
right.
to be an
Get
Olympian.
one more Olympic
You
cycle.
go, how
Cough,
much?
cough, Garabatic. Yeah.
Not that he still can't play. It's just
Yeah,
um, you see people make that calculation of how much uh, how good am I? Am I good enough to make the team? How much do I still like playing? How long is it?
yep, yep,
And I've got the feeling that we've got several players probably making that sort of decision, and at the same time have those life choices: get married, having kids. Um, that that changes things.
yeah,
Plus, getting
absolutely.
old.
And I don't know. I think he's got a finance background. I could be totally off base. Um, I maybe it was Ian that I remember one of them was going to school, going to business school at the same time. So, I'm not. I think he's probably got to find other job lined up if he steps away from handball entirely. But
And
I
there
can't
are
imagine what they get paid at Dormagen.
yeah,
So,
exactly, and there are players that are better than him that make those sorts of decisions. I saw something on the Handball World site. Some fairly good women's player deciding, hey, I'm just going to step away. I want to start my teaching career.
yeah,
So, um, people have different life goals, and those life goals change.
yep,
When I remember practicing, uh, I think it was the SISM tournament. I went to a military handball tournament. It's all West
hmm
Point Air Force guys. I remember going like, these practices aren't that much fun anymore.
yep,
And
yep,
it just happens. Um, Whereas before it was like practice. I love practice.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so that's one story, and then let's talk about story number two here.
Oh yes, the beach. Head over to
Beach
the
handball to
beach.
light up to light up Paris with 64 players announced. So this is nice. This is they're going to have a demonstration, if you will. They're calling it the IHF Beach Handball Showcase. They're going to play handball. We're bringing in 64 players, some of the best players in the world. They're going to form all-star teams. I think the French teams are going to be there, and going to give opportunity to showcase handball and uh, you know make a visual case for it to be a great sport for potential Olympic inclusion.
Yeah, and I think if you look at the list, there's a decent, representation from countries around the world. I did think it was a little odd to, do it kind of the all-star way, but you'll probably get a better product to an extent because just the way beach handball's played is there is a decent amount of chemistry involved, but I think for the most part, it's all about how you play the man up style on offense, obviously. But I don't know a ton about the participation or kind of events because I know when lacrosse was doing it, I could have sworn that they still stuck with their countries in the competition for the demonstration aspect of it. But I will have to go back and look, but I could have sworn that they kind of had a couple countries and had a couple games and went about it in that manner. So to have it this format, it's pretty cool. And especially to have three people from the U.S. represented is even better.
Yeah, and those three people are Christine Mansour and ABA, the handball
Oh,
ninja,
Ninja,
and Drew Donlin.
Captain
So
America. So
that'll be nice for him. Assuming his fiance also gets to makes
Be
one of
there.
the
Yeah.
Olympic teams for beach volleyball, commonly confused. Um, that would be pretty cool for them
It's
to
a
be
true
there at the
power
same
couple.
time. Yeah, that's awesome, actually. Um, and I don't think we'd be talking about it right now. Not that we're a massive voice in the handball world, but
Right.
maybe in the United States, if we didn't have three Americans that were playing, we'd probably be less excited or couldn't care less.
True. I probably wouldn't have even seen this posting if I didn't see it reposted all over social media today. So, and especially, hats off to these three. I know Christine's was she hired by the IHF at one point, or she was working, I think, for the IHF
He
as
was
a
doing some media for the EHF,
EHF.
I
So,
believe, and she's
and
played in
obviously,
some EHF club competitions.
yep. And Ebier, he is probably one of the more famous individuals on the beach scene. And there's some other key people like Joe Perez, who's played in several U.S. based competitions. A Brazilian guy. Um, so it's a pretty good list. I've seen in my brief stint with the U.S. Beach national team, I've played against some names on this list and seen some on the women's. So it's a pretty good list, including Stefan Kretschmar's daughter. Um, she's a beach monster. So it's a good
The
list.
Germans have done a pretty good job of recruiting,
Yep.
and um, that's why they have started to dominate, I think. Um, so let me be a little bit of a sourpuss.
Okay.
Um, I lived in Paris for 5 years. I was gonna go see a match in Créteil once. At the time they were like one of the top five handball clubs in France,
Hmm.
kind of on the outskirts of Paris. Never made it to that suburb. Actually, came close. I think I played some over 35 basketball in that area, but Créteil didn't have a team I ever played. So um, I guess what I'm getting at, it's kind of off to the side. Nobody's nobody's going to stumble upon it. No, very few people are going to stumble upon it in Créteil. Now, yeah, wouldn't
How
have been
how far
awesome.
from Paris is it?
Um, well, it's a suburb of Paris. It's on the
Okay.
southeast corner. You can take a metro to it. It's like the last stop on the metro, if I remember. But it's a
Okay.
lot of stops
Right.
from where I live. Um, but it's not a touristy area for sure. Um, just a typical suburb, and that's where the Maison de Handball is. Um, would it be nicer if it was like they were somehow able to use the beach volleyball venue near the Eiffel Tower? Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
pretty cool. And you would get a lot of people seeing that. Um, and then the other, so but hey, beggars can't be choosers, and this is going to be exposure, and whether it's in a suburb out on the outskirts, it'll still be a place that you can make some social media posts, those sorts of things.
Let me spin a real idea. I know we don't want to talk a ton about this, but hypothetically speaking, this goes extremely well. The IOC people love it and knock it out of the park. Does the IOC come to the point where they have a conversation, say, "Hey, we're going to get rid of indoor handball and support
Okay,
beach
well,
handball"?
so I pulled up this article, and if you see here, it has Kit McConnell, sports director, IOC.
Hmm.
So you can actually go on YouTube and you can hear what Mr. McConnell had to say about beach handball. And they picked some very positive things that he said there, about what a great game it
Yeah.
is. It's fun. It's been in the youth games. But you know what he said right after that spot? And I'll paraphrase pretty
Yeah.
heavily here. I'm really
Yes.
paraphrasing
Yes.
here. All right.
Just want to clarify.
Come on, people. Get real. All
Yeah.
right. If you think you're going to get beach handball, you and every other sport that wants to add disciplines without subtracting any bodies, you guys are dreaming. That is never going to happen. He was much more diplomatic than that, but that is
Right.
essentially what he said. And it wasn't just handball, it was all these other sports had like,
Yep.
other ideas. Um, and I don't, well, they've cracked open the door a bit. All right. Because there's going to be more than, I can't remember what the number is. It's like 10,800 or something like that that are going to be
Athletes,
in
yeah.
LA. They've,
Hmm.
they've, they've, the way they've cracked it open, it's, um, only 10,800 athletes there at the same time. So a sport like rugby, the sevens rugby, a sport like beach handball, you can be in and out in like a week. So you leave, another sport comes in. You're not there the whole time. So they're maybe going to change it to man days as opposed to
Total,
just total for the whole
yeah.
2 weeks. Um, but unless they change the rules somehow, or we swap sports, or we reduce indoor, beach handball is not getting in. It's not getting in. Doesn't mean it's a bad sport. Doesn't mean it should be in. Should, it's just unless they change the rules, it ain't getting in.
Yep.
Um, yeah, and like you said, we don't have time to talk about everything because there's a whole host of other things.
Yeah.
I've made a list. We'll maybe tackle it maybe next week when there's nothing else going on. Um, but we need to talk about the Ohio State Hungary trip.
Oh,
And
yes. Where to
um,
begin? It's the real,
yeah, I've pulled up some videos and some pictures. Ah, shoot, I forgot to load up the pictures again. Let me.
I'll start with maybe a little bit of background of what unfolded on just getting there. So, um, you know, Lufthansa went on strike uh, just a couple days before our flight was supposed to take off, to the point where they notified us that our flight was canceled. Um, so a portion of us, everyone besides John and Bob Wise, who were flying out of different airports, their flights were not impacted, but the remainder of our group, all 15 of us, were needing to find an alternative method of getting there. So, um, canceled our flights, found new flights, rebooked Sunday to Sunday instead of Friday to Friday. Bob and John were already on their way to get over there. Bob got there Saturday, went to the Jor. Um, I don't know who they played in the final. The women's uh, Hungarian Cup. So he went and watched that game in Tatabánya, which was pretty cool. But then John's flight was overbooked, so then he had to spend a night in Ireland or in London. No, yeah, in
One.
Dublin, in Dublin. Um, so he's had to, spend an extra night there, and then he arrived Monday morning. We arrived Monday evening. So then we spent a couple days in Tatabánya, and then spent a day in Vienna. But I'll let John. We'll kind of dive into a little bit here.
Yeah, so I pulled up a few pictures. Um, and yeah, I got my check from Air Canada, so that
Good,
was
good, good, good.
travel light, be flexible, and you guys were late. I was like, oh, I'm
Why
crazy
not?
not to take this check and go walk around Dublin for a day, which I did, which was fun. But um, we got there. I've got a little bit of an itinerary. The first day that we were there, um, that was a pretty active day.
Yeah, we
I think you guys had a light practice,
yeah
and I
we
think
woke
this
up.
might be a scene from here.
Yep, and a lot of the
Uh,
guys never played with Stickum before, so they got some gym time, and we had to kick a gym class out. There was some confusion on the schedule a little bit, but we jumped in, got used to the Stickum because we had a game later that day. So there's a
and it
next.
was comical watching the balls just
Oh
go
yes,
awry. And this is
exactly what you'd expect.
Tatabania's, uh, used to be their main gym because we
Yeah,
saw some pictures there. Um, they got some nice stands on the backside, but not a very big place. But it must have been one hell of a home field advantage when they
when they
when
played
they
there, it was probably
played there.
rocking. So,
And then
um,
let's see here. So you guys then that after we then you guys played their under 16 kids, And I
Yep.
think this is kind of a preview there. There's JD talking to the OSU team.
So
And
yeah, I think again, these guys having played with Stickum now for 6 hours versus guys that have been playing organized handball for most of their life, you can expect how things went. We had a mixture of scarlet and gray guys, so at one point I was like, we got to start subbing people in. As much as you want to win, we want people to have good experience and get some good reps. So I think the final score for this game ended up being something like 40 something to
you guys got clobbered.
it was like 40
Um,
something, low 20 something, high 40s, low 20s maybe.
yeah, it was. You know,
47-24 sounds.
okay,
I'd have to go back and look.
we can
Either way, it
follow
was
USA
yeah,
team handball practices,
yeah, and
and
just
if we
not
don't like the score,
yeah, just don't talk
we'll just
about
kind of be
it.
quiet about it.
So
But um, and humbling to get beat by kids,
oh yeah,
basically.
I told him
Um,
the one kid got bodied by a midget, and I was like, this is. You're going against a kid who's 12 years old and half your size, and you're getting bodied
they
by
were
him. I
older than
was
that.
like,
They were 16,
I was
15, I
I
think
was just
mostly.
messing with him. The
Yeah,
one
but
smaller wing.
but
So
still, that is just humbling. And but a good experience for you guys to see what it's like. People have been playing the sport longer than you, even if you're bigger.
yeah, yeah,
Um, but they were good sports out there. You see some shirts that got traded.
yeah. Nice jersey
Um,
swap. So
yeah, that is nice. There you can see a little bit of the stands there. So um, it uh, it was a good experience for you guys, absolutely.
yeah.
And then that evening,
And then the trip went off the rails. So we
oh, it didn't go off the rail. Look at that! Look at all the happy faces there,
20
right?
minutes later. That's
That was a
it
great
was
tour.
it was a very cool, riverboat, cruise or down the Danube. We saw, a lot of the main sites that Budapest has to offer. They're all very well lit up. Really nice, just casual stroll down the river. This was a nice. They had prosecco on the boat.
Highly
Uh,
recommend it. If anybody else ever is in Budapest, take the river cruise.
yep.
It was I and I also should say here, in honor of the late great Dr. Peter Buning and passport shuffles. They like tell a story about, yeah, we got 15 guys out with 15 guys
14
out with 14
passports. Yeah.
passports.
Yeah.
I was the 17th
We got
person on the
17
16
people
person
on and
ticket there.
16 tickets exactly. So,
So,
it was all
but
good.
yeah, great experience though. Um, and I think the next day we watched a Tatabanya practice, and I think that was interesting. And
And Norway. We had so we watched Tatabani's practice that day. After we had practice, we watched Tatabani's practice. Then Wednesday, we had practice with the Tatabanya coach Dragan Jukic, um, who kind of like led the guys in some drills and so on and so forth. Which Dragan has quite a diverse handball coaching background. Croatian guy, or Serbian, excuse me, Serbian guy, and he has coached the Great Britain team. He's coached the Israeli national team. I think I'm trying to remember where he was right before this. But
he's
there's
coached
us with
Israel. He's
yeah.
coached different clubs teams. There he is right there in the center talking to JD and Bob and Charlie. He sat down and talked with you about the 3-2-1 defense for
Oh yeah, we got
10,
on the
15
court and
minutes.
yep.
Yeah, what a great
So
experience. And I enjoyed watching their practice and the Norway team practice. I thought they were both uh, it was just interesting to see how things haven't changed a whole lot in 30 years. A lot of it brought back a lot of memories, even some of the
mhm.
drills that were being done.
I think what's
Um,
interesting that I try to tell the guys is like how different the practice for Tatabanya was versus the Norway. Both the styles of which the coaches handled the practice as well as the activities. Obviously, different things going on. The Tatabanya practice was during an international break when a lot of the guys weren't there. Norway was day before a Olympic qualifying match. So
let's see. I'm going to pull up some. Here we go. And we went to match in Tatabanya. Um, that was
And
pretty.
Wednesday night we had practice as well in the city of Komorom, which was in northern Hungary, right on the border with Slovakia. Um, Thomas Newcomb, a IHF lecturer on beach handball, he kind of led practice with their some of their U18 guys with us, which was pretty cool. But then yeah, Thursday we went to the first day of matches for the Olympic qualification, which had the first game was Norway, Portugal, and then Hungary, Tunisia. So
I was trying to pull up some more photos from there. I was having difficulties. Oh, here we go.
yeah,
Up wrong
and
way.
while John's getting that up, that before those matches, we spent the whole day in Vienna, which was quite the spot. If you've never been to Vienna, lot to do, lot to see, a lot of museums. So pretty cool place. Don't sit down for lunch. It's going to take 2 hours. So,
And I had better seats since you guys had already bought tickets, and I was only going to be there for that one match.
yep,
I had awesome seats. It was great. Tickets were very reasonably priced. I was looking at Olympic tickets. You couldn't get me to pay for a ticket to go see a match.
really.
Now that I've seen a match for like
Yeah.
a third or fourth of the price,
Yeah.
and that was, a good
You had good, I mean,
a
you were,
good seat.
right at the 6 meter, 20 rows
And,
from the
and
court.
who did the Ohio State guys root for?
We kind of had a house divided over the course of the week, but we definitely rooted for Norway because we went to their practice, and then we immediately flipped gears and cheered for Hungary in the next game. But then when it was Norway versus Hungary, I think out of the 15 of us that were left, it was four for Norway and 11 for Hungary. So I made sure
Okay.
to bring some of my Norway stuff from when I was in Trondheim last year.
Well, you guys, and then in the interest of time, we'll move it along. You guys then uh, drop me off at the airport, and
Yeah.
you guys spent another day in Budapest. You played. How did the game against Budoars go?
So what's interesting with that club is they were a U18 club. It was way more formal of a match. They had two referees, they had a table worker, they had the scoreboard up and running, they had fans. We did, I don't want to say national anthem, but we had like they wanted us to have like a team
Did
cheer
the Ohio State
basically.
fight song?
That's what we Josh was first in line and he had no idea what to do, so he just like go Bucks. So you can catch it on the video. It was pretty funny. But they were, I would say, technically not as good as the U16 kids from Tatabanya, but much bigger. I mean, they were bigger than all of our guys. So like, what was funny is we were winning. I don't know, maybe the first like 10 minutes of the game, and then
It's
uh,
I would never have guessed that. So
yeah, like it
yeah,
was very. The other problem was again I got to make substitutions. We get everybody playing time, and we had, the stickum factor that was probably the result of quite a few turnovers. So I think the final score for that ended up being like 51-27 or something like that. So it was a lot of fast break kind of things. So,
but it's good that you guys played it from a while. It'll give you a taste. Like, hey, oh, these guys aren't special. They're not that
yeah,
much better than
yeah,
us. Um,
it was good to
well,
see that they could hang.
so we got 10 minutes left. I was thinking about the trip, and like I said, it brought back a lot of memories for me. And um, the thing that got to me thinking was like, what a great experience for your team. You know, and it's not just the handball. It was also the cultural part of it.
Yep,
And I've traveled quite a bit around Europe for sure, from my NATO job.
yep,
But one thing I learned in traveling, when all you're doing is traveling for the sake of traveling, and you're a 100% tourist, it kind of gets old after a while.
yeah,
And you know, playing a little handball and doing a little, sightseeing. I To me, it's like a better way to experience it because
Yeah,
you're not only just seeing the nice statues and buildings and whatever, you're actually interacting with people other than
people.
just waiters and hotel clerks.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that that's, definitely something we've benefited from on our previous trips. Like when we went to Norway, we had Roger Meyer. He was our point of contact, and we were just hanging out with him. And then we had the Wheeler family, so we had different groups of people that kind of immersed us into the Norwegian culture in different aspects. And so this trip, we talked heavily with Adina, the women's national team coach, and she got us hooked up with, a variety of different, relationships, and we spent a lot of time. I mean, we sat down with lunch and had lunch with Dragon, and like you said, it's, you know, not just, going to this town, seeing things amongst ourselves. We were, right there with everybody. I sat down, said a few words to Laszlo Nagy, Hungarian, legend, at one of the games. It was very cool. Joey Williams, he's got a good relationship with Vestrom. He was trying to get us to meet up with Patrick Ligavari before the game, but I told him I think he was a little too dialed in preparation for that Norway
Sure.
match. But it was very
Yeah,
cool. Like to your point.
yeah, and the I remember the few national team trips I went on. I remember those the rest of my life. So, some of the little things, and I think whether your guys realize that or not, they're gonna have fond memories of that trip. And you know, I don't see any future national teamers on your side.
Yeah, yeah. No, I
Nothing
mean,
personal. Um, but you know what? Maybe one of those guys is going to be a Mark Cuban rugby
you
player from
yep,
Indiana State. And I think that they have probably developed a little bit stronger fandom for the sport as a result of that trip. That's something that they'll carry with them. And I think, I don't want you to get big headed. I think you're doing a really great job
no,
of uh, uh, establishing a good team camaraderie that I think
oh,
can last more than just the years that they're
it's
there. That you could
yep,
actually, have uh, an alumni that down the road that will help the team. Not everybody,
yep,
but some of those guys. And
absolutely.
then you're going to do more recruiting. You're going to have a great player that's going to come out. That's my philosophy on college handball. Is that every you get a good program, you're going to have one great athlete every 4 years.
Yep.
That's something to shoot for.
And that
um,
to your point, that one athlete can be enough to really carry a team and bring in other athletes. So,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just
Um, because the other thing, and it's more than just your team and our teams that go over for national team training, or even the kids that go to the Partili Cup or other tournaments. Sometimes I feel like, man, it's expensive to go to Europe, and if we have to travel to Europe to play handball, in a sense, it's almost like we're accepting defeat. We don't have very many youth teams traveling to Europe to go play basketball, for
right.
for instance. It's expensive. But then I think part of it is what's the expectation for people. And I know for Ohio State guys, I think I think everybody's pretty well grounded.
Yep.
I think maybe hopefully this will juice their love of the sport, and maybe take it to the next level for some of the younger guys that say, listen to me, like freaking Ryan says, I'm not national team material. Screw you, dude. What do you know? And they, and
Yep.
they
Fire
they
them up.
fire them up, and yeah. Well, you know what? Whatever. I guess part of it is the expectation and what you're getting out of it. And I think it goes back to the um, playing handball, cultural bonding. It's just it's a, it's a, it's a great thing.
I think
I,
what I try to make it very clear to our guys is like, we're going over there to, experience another country, experience handball as it's supposed to be played, have a good time, and it is spring break. I'm not trying to, this was probably a very in comparison to our previous trips, this was probably the busiest trip we've done in regards to like we woke up, we went to something we didn't have. There wasn't a ton of downtime. Um, but when I asked, I did a little survey of some other kids I know that are in college. Asked them, how much the expenses were for their respective spring break trips to Florida or Cancun or whatever. And when they tell me it's the same price as what it costs for our guys to go on this trip, that's all I need to know. Because if I can have a guy that he might be on the fence. He doesn't really care that much about, the handball, but he wants to go, somewhere cool. It's like, here you go. Like you can either go to, Fort Lauderdale or you can go to, Hungary. And these guys, we went to 4 countries, like in a week. And I think that that's not something that any of them ever expected to do when they signed up to play handball in the fall for the first time. So, I think it's to your point, it's stuff they'll remember for forever and have a great experience moving on with the sport.
All right, so here's one other thought. We got like a couple minutes left. Back in the early days of Team Handball News, and this is where I'm going at.
Oh boy, 2008, yeah,
Um, I periodically had advertisements with the website,
yeah,
and I got contacted by Mr. Wolfen, German living in South Africa, who organized soccer trips.
yep,
And the first trips went fine, but after a while, people are like getting over there and they're like going, "Hey, this hotel is like twice as much as you said it was going to be. This food sucks. What's going on here?" People were
hmm
like coming at me and like going, you know, I now understand how Facebook feels when like, "Hey, I'm just providing a convo, a place for information to go."
hmm
Um, but I look, but anyway, this guy actually ended up getting arrested.
Oh wow,
And I was like saying, hey, I can't control, I don't do a full survey on people doing these
yeah,
trips. But I look at um, rugby has people that they organize trips because there's a lot of work for you to organize that trip. Um, you know, plane tickets get canceled. I
yeah,
mean, it's a lot of stuff, but it's probably a business there if somebody is motivated to do that sort of thing. Hopefully, you get more clubs looking at a trip like this, um, and
I've asked other
getting.
clubs at the same spring break to come with us. I don't care if we can all fly under one umbrella. It's fine with me. So,
I know it's just a matter of the organization and getting it
hmm
getting it squared away. Um, and part of the reason I wanted to see it, I just wanted to see, well, was this a worthwhile thing? And
yeah,
by golly, yeah,
so
I can't imagine. I would think most clubs would enjoy a trip like this. It's just a matter of organizing it, getting it squared away. So if there's a travel company out there with also a love of handball, I think not we, you've come
yeah,
up with a pretty good model for it that should be copied.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
And I'm just using existing resources. So I'm not. It's nothing crazy, but it's good time.
well,
So highly
yeah,
recommend.
JD. Well, we just touched the surface there, but good job for JD Orr. I'm John Ryan, and thanks for listening.